he bagged them up with a special group of Marines with a particular set of killing skills.
Super
right?
soldier.
Yep. The elite of the elite.
Yeah.
And not only that, the U.S. Marshal deputized 5,000 military to be sheep dipped under the Marshal's office. That means that they're planning a massive operation and they got nothing to do with immigration. But immigration is the cover story. The immigration is the cover story while they execute the plan, because we have to see the National Guard come in before they spring the trap on the police in case some of the police stations go rogue. Right? Because some of them know that they work for the Crown of England, but some of them don't. The ones that know it is the ones that's more likely to instruct their officers to resist the National Guard. And this is where you're going to need your Marines at. Right? So the show of military domestic force, when the last time they had a mass military parade in D.C.? Do you remember? Do anybody remember? We remember them being done in China.
Yep.
We remember them being done in North Korea. We remember them being done in Russia. We remember them being done in Iraq. But we don't remember the last time they had a domestic military show of military armament in a parade, right? Now, you might have had a veterans parade that was much smaller scale, but a presidential parade. Now, it was Trump's birthday as well.
Yep.
Right? And the movement behind the LA so-called riots is called the No Kings movement. So it's a No Kings protest. So who would be protesting against the king? Think about that. If it's a No Kings protest, who's trying to get rid of the king? Who got the power to remove the king from the throne?
Big Mama.
That's it. The Queen Mother or the Queen. That's it.
Yeah, because you can't be a king without coming through the Queen Mother's bloodline.
Yeah, because the Queen Mother is the mother of the king. That's what makes her the Queen Mother. Right? And the queen is the one he take for the bride. But it's a political strategy move. It's the same as getting the queen on the chessboard. You're getting a power player in order to help you play this game called life. 5D chess. So you got to know when to use your jesters, just like you got to know when to use your assassins.
Right.
If you use either one of them at the wrong time, you fumble the ball, you're going to cause anarchy.
Hey, let me ask y'all this, and either one of y'all could take it, but do y'all remember back when they was closing down all them Walmarts back when COVID was going on?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, does that have anything to do with what we're seeing right now? Because to me, something ain't adding up. I smell some fishy shit. Like, does that all like?
Yeah, because the No Kings symbol was facilitated by Walmart. They're the ones who created that. It's coming from that faction. Because you also got to understand that it's an anagram for the word martial law. So then you remember that Donald Trump, he signed that Secular Declaration of Independence on July the 4th of 2020, which was the restoration of the republic. So now within that attribute, what he did was he got qualified immunity. So now this is where FEMA can take over the military and they can deploy them and use them against the American people. As far as like when you're going against these protesters or whatever, he can enact that because he has is it under the continuity of government, I believe?
Yeah, emergency war powers.
Yeah, so he has control over the military. So
yeah. So FEMA was the first thing that military intelligence infiltrated.
Yeah.
Because FEMA was designed by the old man Bush faction to take over if we don't wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the whole FEMA was originally designed to react as if they coming for an emergency, but then they leaving us stranded like with Hurricane Katrina. Right? So the whole thing is to control the outcome of the disaster. How bad do you want it to be, and what do you want the financial benefit? Do you know how many people donated to Katrina relief?
Millions.
A lot.
Millions, and some of them people, them princes in Saudi put $1 billion on that shit, and the people never seen none of the resources that came from it.
That goes back to Muammar Gaddafi when he was trying to give the gold, you know what I'm saying? Was it to the nation or to Farrakhan or to black people in America? And they blocked that too.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen, Gaddafi promised Farrakhan that he would put the wealth of Libya behind our people to struggle for our independence. And as a gesture of good faith, he offered Farrakhan $5 billion. When he offered Farrakhan the $5 billion, it got to go through banking channels. The U.S. government got wind of it and told Farrakhan, if you want this $5 billion, we need you to register under the Trading with the Enemies Act. Right? And that's what they use to try to block it. But it's still other means by which resources can be donated to a nonprofit organization. It's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right.
Look at the nation. Nation of Islam, whether you agree with their doctrine, whether you like Elijah Muhammad or not, the Nation of Islam is the lifeblood that links all of the tribes together at a moment's notice, right? We needed somebody to stay the course so that they can get their fingers wherever we at in every community we are with respect still. Even if you don't like them, even if you don't like their doctrine, even if you don't like the character of their original leadership, right? You have to respect the way that they deal with their people in the streets. Right? That's the basic human respect. So when Gaddafi, remember, Gaddafi also offered the same thing to Chief Malik Jafar, Angel Bay. Right? To put the wealth behind the rise of the Black Peace Stone Nation. Most of us don't know that. Right? That Jafar had not, Gaddafi wasn't the only one willing to give Jeff money. That's why they had to get rid of him. And that's why they ran that COINTEL operation to set him up with trying to buy a rocket launcher that was never functional. They tried to sell him a dummy. And he didn't have nothing to do with it, but because he was the figurehead, the leader of the Peace Stones, he ended up taking the weight of what somebody under him was taking it up on themselves to do. And then they brought in these people they call code crackers to say that their day-to-day language was talking in code, but they was talking regular English. But they were saying it was code. So they developed the code based off their day-to-day language to indicate what they were saying, but it's not what they said. We don't pay that stuff no attention. What did they say? Okay, what are you saying they said this, but that ain't the words that came out their mouth.
Right.
You telling us what they meant, let them tell us what they meant. We can't go off your word because you ain't the one speaking them.
Facts. That part.
But they use that to ensnare him in the counterintelligence operation to stop the rise of any potential messiah who could incite the masses. They had hundreds of us on paper from elementary school to adulthood And the ones that showed the promise of becoming the leader, they either had them killed in the street or locked up for life.
Mm.
Everybody locked up, not guilty. And you will believe how many people that may have had something to do with it was being led by a confidential informant the whole way.
Yeah.
Working on the payroll of the government.
Yeah.
Never got arrested for the same crime that they started.
Yeah. The system is so cutthroat and so conniving and scandalous. There are brothers that I know firsthand. I'm talking about real life accords that I know personally. There are brothers who have done bids that done 15, 20 plus year bids. When they get out, they put a damn CI on them to follow them and to surveillance them and to try to befriend them so they can kind of hem them along, like roll them along and like lead them into another crime or another charge so they can get them to, so they can send them right back to prison. I know somebody personally that they did that too. So I know how nasty these devils are. It's a real thing.
But what we're not understanding is those are military operations operating in the police state of an occupied territory of a foreign agency that's masquerading as our government. But has nothing to do with the people who have heritable rights to the land. They have subject matter jurisdiction because they control the paperwork. But we got territorial jurisdiction. They operate in Admiralty and Maritime. We operate under the Great Law of Peace. We not the same.
And that's why, you know, you see in the shift in power too. That strawberry moon that we had, that was a representation of the harbinger of destruction and transformation of the patrilineal system of patriarchy. So it's not a coincidence that was also teleconnected to Friday the 13th. That was the restoration of Big Mama. So everything as far as like the numerology and everything and the fall in a system is a representation of the fall of the sleep spell of King Gu, the fall of the lunar energy. And that's what, you know, is facilitating everything as far as their corporate system. So that's why it has to fall, because it represents a transitional shift. Because when you look at the precessional circle of the equinox, it shows you how the Draconian star constellation was also in conjunction with the age of Pisces, which was the clay age. The clay age, which is the age of mankind, which is the kind of a man that was genetically spliced in 4086 BC on the island of Patmos. So now we're going through a transition now from the age of Aquarius to where it's in alignment with the star Polaris. So now, like I said, everything is starting to activate as far as like by way of the nature, by way of, you know, numerology. So the next strawberry moon we're supposed to be having is in 2043. And according to Dr. Malachi Z. York, Freedom Master Teacher, he said that the mothership was going to come back during the time of 2043 because there's a vortex that opens up that it happens in 10-year increments from 1943 when they had a Philadelphia experiment where they made the ship disappear. That's when there was a big rip in the universe. So now the vortex opens and it's an interstellar vortex portal, and there's like a shift that takes place. And that's during the time period of when you're supposed to see the strawberry moon that represents the, you know, the fall of, you know, patriarchy. And it's also the rise of the ones that's, you know, leaving the system. As far as like 2043, that's when you're going to have the great balls of fire.
Look, when have you ever known a country to have civil unrest and celebrations on the same day? And they know that they both coming.
When you've heard of this bastardized corporation that they call America, that's the only time I know of in recorded history.
Look, this is the first time in history that you had a national crisis in the streets on one coast and a celebration on the other coast. They telling us something.
Yep.
It's an uncommon occurrence. It's a message in there.
What's the message, Big Chief?
So we looking at first Elon fell out with Trump. Mutt and Jeff routine.
Yeah, they got in the titty.
Now they playing the same storyline on the bigger national scale. What these two did is what the nation is doing.
Good cop, bad cop.
Right. Now, they play good cop, get bad cop in order to force a confession. Right? One of them play like he your friend, and the other one play like he gonna send you to prison for forever and ever in a day.
Fact.
For jaywalking. You'll never see the day of light again. You jaywalked across my streets. You'll be locked up from now to eternity. Bad cop. Good cop. Pay him no mind. He's just angry. Right? So they playing it out on the national level now and on the international level at the same time.
Yep.
On the international level, it takes us to Iran, Israel, right? Which takes us back to outcasts.
Yep.
Because those bombs have to fly over Baghdad.
Don't pull the thing out unless you're playing the game.
Hey, that's I'm glad you brought that up because that's also representing the black hats versus the white hats too, like on a national scale.
Yeah, but
know
the
that
Democrats are following or back in Israel, and then the Republicans or the white hats are back in Iran. Correct?
Yep. Because that's why they said that the grid is going to be attacked. That's why the World Economic Forum, they said it was inevitable. I think that's going to go ahead.
Netanyahu is the only puppet that I personally want to walk up to him and shoot him in the face.
Oh wow.
His personality and desperation that drive people to war all around them countries. They should have been he worse than what was the other one named Ariel Sharon. Man, that dude right there, he was a diehard Zionist. And the Zionists, look, even the Israelis don't like Zionists. The immigrants that came there with the Zionists don't like the Zionists. Right? So the whole thing being is they play this storyline out, but it's a distraction.
Yes.
All we supposed to do is don't feed into it. Because when they don't get our energy from it, fall apart. So they sensationalize it and they play on our fears, our misery, and our pain. They usurp our identity and claim our suffering, but they never went through and endured the suffering that we had to endure.
Yeah.
Imposters, interlopers, masquerading as us. They look like us, but they ain't us.
But that to me is the Eminem factor of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody wants the hip hop, they want the rap, but they don't want to deal with the struggle of the artist of the hip hop, the true form of hip hop, or who created. You know what I'm saying? This
Eminem was classic to the roots of hip hop in his rise.
What,
right?
Dr. Dre?
No, before Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
When he was working with Proof, he was learning to perfect his craft following street rules.
Wasn't Proof his ghostwriter? That's what I heard. I don't know how true that is, though.
I don't know if he was his ghostwriter, but he was his coach.
Gotcha.
Right. And because Eminem had his own way that he wrote, the flavor that Proof was able to give him just gave him that extra to get over the hump. Because he needed to be able to reach both sides of the spectrum. The ones that look like us and the ones that don't look like us. Right? That look like him. Hip hop, Eminem is an octoroon. He ain't really Caucasoid. He Caucasoid-ish.
Can you break that down for us?
His parents, they mixed.
See, I never knew that.
You can look at them and tell, but you have to know what they look like when they came here to know if they mixed. I always tell people when they so-called open the plantations up, all them people that was passing that came to the north, where they go?
Mm.
Who they married,
Right.
right? They got testimonials of people who lived through discovery that they was mixed, but most of your Hollywood greats was mixed,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? Your Fred Astaire's, your what's my man name? The
Dean
Duke,
Martin.
Jared Wayne,
Yeah.
Elvis Presley,
Mm.
right? They was all mulattoes.
Mm.
The whole thing with Hollywood back then to get an Oscar, you got to remember, Oscar was look like us.
Yeah, you know, that reminds you when you say what you saying that, and I don't mean to interrupt, but that triggers something about samurais. I don't know how many people know you had to be African or have African blood in your
Yeah.
system in order to be considered to be a samurai. Is that not correct?
Yeah, because the neuromelanin is what gives you the intuitive intelligence to tap into like ESP and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
Because they also was they had a katana, it's a spirit sword.
Mm.
So it was
I got one too.
the vibration of the carbon because it contains a positive electrical frequency. So just your genetics alone enhances the intelligence of the sword. It can activate it.
Mm.
They even showed that they show you in the video game Assassin's Creed. They got a new one. They show you the Black Samurai. It just came out maybe a couple months ago.
Mm.
You know where I learned how to refine my sword development in charging energy? Bleach.
Yep. Because bleach
Each
kills.
go when they tell you the properties of each one of the Zanpakuto, and they got his Bankai form and the Shikai form.
Mm-hmm.
They telling you how to use the energy, but they not telling you how to use the energy.
Right.
They showing you examples of the energy being used. And it's only certain people that have holographic vision that could see the correlation where you can utilize the stuff that they showing you in the anime.
Yep.
Another one was a Full Metal Alchemist, right? They was telling you the rules of alchemy in there.
Yep.
And showing you what happened when you try to override nature to do what you want, because the laws of nature even applies in the laws of physics. There's only so much you allowed to do before what you allowed to do be turned against you. Because you're not allowed to do stuff continuously to people that you wouldn't want people to do to you. Because if you keep doing it, sooner or later, they're going to send somebody to do exactly what you did to the people to you, bully you around, smack you upside your head, whoop you up and down the block, pistol whoop you, whatever it take in order for you to get the message.
Yep.
And I promise to God, I just was having this conversation over the last 2 days. That is, to me, is no different than you getting a visit from Lady K, Miss Karma, because well, she gonna come and see you. It's just a matter of when she come and see you. But when you put that ish out there, the pendulum has to swing back. That's the laws of nature. That's the laws of the universe. As above, so below. As within, so without.
Yep. The law of physics say for every action is equal and opposite reaction, unless due to elasticity, in which case the reaction may be delayed. That means you could stretch it out, but it's still coming back.
Boy, the further you stretch it, boy, the harder and faster it's coming back. And we seeing that. That's the laws of Ma'at. The laws of Ma'at says you're gonna get back what you give, and sometimes if you're doing it unrighteously, 7 times fold.
Why did the elders leave us the laws of Ma'at written? Why did they leave it for us to study?
We had to pick up and follow
the guidelines, the guidelines for humanity to be civilized.
Look, they're not trying to control you.
Right.
Right. But there's paths in life that they've walked so many lifetimes that they're able to give you principles and to give you vision to understand how to navigate the world, because we don't be born with no instructional manual. Right? Because we don't have an instructional manual, you only allowed to do bad until you know better. And when you know better, you obligated to do better. And if you know better and you don't do better, you're going to get treated worse. That's how it works. And a lot of people think that, oh, why them people rich and these people poor? The corporate constructs of the country. We just wasn't allowed to play the game. It wasn't that we didn't know how. We was blocked out of all of the institutions. We needed to pass the brown paper bag test, but we was too red.
Yep.
We wasn't yellow enough. And that's how they used the pale faces to block the institutions, but the people that was running the institutions was darker than us. And so this is what gave us the illusion that white supremacy had to do with skin color when it got everything to do with class.
Yes, sir.
Right? The better you play the game, you have a side effect called wealth.
Yep.
The money pile up when you play the game. It's just like Monopoly. The better you is at the game, the better you is at collecting. You can break the bank in Monopoly. And now everybody got to come to you. Right? If you know the rules of the game, you can break the real life bank by telling the truth.
Yep.
Because the truth is more powerful than the sword. Sword can cut you down, but the truth will raise you up.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? The sword can cut you free, but the truth will make you eternally free.
Yes, sir.
Right? So they become synonymous by symbolism. So then when you would charge your sword, and out of his mouth came a two-edged sword.
Yeah, that's deep. It's funny because it reminded me of somebody left a comment on the channel the other day, and they were saying how one of the shows kind of enlightened them to like wake them up to the truth or like change their reality or perspective of the truth. And it was funny because my comment response was, the truth is just like the sun. It's going to rise, you know what I'm saying, no matter what. You can try to put clouds and chemtrails or whatever the hell you want to try to block it, but you can't stop the sun from shining. You know what I'm saying? And that's how the truth is. The truth is going to rise no matter how far you try to bury it. No matter how much you try to layer on top of it, it's going to rise and elevate just like the sun. There's nothing nobody can do to stop it. And that's what we're seeing right now happening in real time.
Look, and all that stuff they're putting up there, the sun will move it out the way so it can penetrate the earth.
Yes, sir.
Facts.
Yes.
The potency of the UV ray will move it out the way. It'll look like it's piercing holes in the atmosphere.
Yes, sir.
And the sun gonna shine through. Right? So they was terraforming the earth for another species because they didn't think we was gonna win the war. Once we won the war, now they got to use clean trails to get that stuff out the sky. And that's why you got rocks and cement falling out the sky. Those are binders.
Yep.
Binding to the chemicals they put on there to get it out the air.
That's crazy. We just had some of that like literally last Monday, if I'm not mistaken, right here in the Bay Area of Florida. We just had that Monday, if I'm not mistaken, last Monday.
Yeah, that's from the clean trails cleaning up the chemtrails.
It's kind of like the same. It's the same concept of when a person's about to get evicted. That's what all Mother Nature is doing. It's just moving the rest of the shit out the way that was facilitated by the colonizers by way of capitalism. So the snakes really just throwing that shit out out on the street. That's what's happening right now. So everything they doing right now, as far as their their incantations, is not going to work. So that it's not one of those things where Donald Trump, he's not creating different dynamics to restore the matriarch. He's not doing it because he wants to. He's doing it because he has to.
Yeah, he don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
Now, he's just the face though. He ain't the one. He ain't the real power behind the machine.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you that. What, like, who is it that's like calling the shots? Because I know it's not him, and I do feel like there's like an extraterrestrial influence or some sort of outside entity that is calling the shots or pulling the strings like Geppetto. So would you happen to know who?
You want to pull up a receipt?
Yes, sir.
Go to images and type in FEMA continuity of government.
Okay, let me see if I can find it real quick. You said FEMA
continuity of government.
Okay, I found it.
Can you share the screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second because this platform is a little tricky, but let me see if I could, because I had went to Safari to see if I can get it, but let me see if I can get it in here too so I can pull it up. Okay, now I got a couple of different ones. I see the guide to
That's why I asked.
is that the one you want? The guide to continuity of government?
Do it got a line under that said by who's the continuity government under? Who's doing it?
It says what I see is continuity of government is intended to preserve essential functions of the statutory. Let me see. Let me click on it and see what it says.
It's the cover for the pamphlet. You ain't got to read the inside. You just got to read the cover.
Okay, yeah. Let me go back then because that's not showing me that. But let me try again. You said it's going to be the cover of the Panthers
pamphlet.
Oh, pamphlet. Okay, yeah. I think I do see that. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna try to see if I share it real quick.
I think you got a government building on the cover.
Yep, I just found it. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it up. Let's see.
See, when you show somebody something, it got a whole different force to it than when you just tell them.
I got it. I'm about to bring it to the screen. 1 second. Yep, I got it locked and loaded. I'm gonna bring it in. So let me pull it up. Boom, got him. All right. As soon as I upload, I'll share it. But yeah, I found it. I got it. I got it right here. It's just waiting for it to upload.
We at the end of government. Yeah. You see that white line that's with the smaller print where it say guide to continuity of government? Read that.
For state, local, tribal, and territorial governments.
Territorial mean the ones with the jurisdiction over the land. Tribal is the people with the different family lines that predominate the land pre-colonialism. Right? And you see where it says state and local, because the tribal way is to take over local government first. Once all of the local governments understand what's being done, then you bring down the corporate government legal fiction, restoring the tribes back to power. The generals, the white hat generals, was retired military generals who discovered the fraud being ran on the people of the country and how we was all being enslaved and forced to fight in wars that had nothing to do with us. But the people from over here, we wasn't over there. It was people using our name. Right? They were CB4 rappers. Stole Gusto name. They were studio gangsters the whole time, pretending to be us so they can bully the rest of the world that don't want no smoke with us. We have a legendary and historical record of fending off all attacks. This one was just done with sorcery, conjure magic, blood rituals, and blood rites. Right? So now that we've undone all of their rituals, right? By exposing them to the public, it breaks the spell, which allows this continuity of government process to be carried out by the tribes using the oral tradition to reclaim the territorial jurisdiction, which gives them the right to overthrow the legal fiction. Now, this team is in a place called Raven Rock in Colorado, in a military bunker, because the higher chiefs on the land that y'all probably haven't never seen, right? But they the ones been struggling with the government to get us back into control, right? And now, because we didn't never do treaties with them, we was classified as outlaw tribes. So we had to use alternative means of communication. in order for all of the tribes to know that we coming back for everything they owe. And it just so happened they owe us everything.
Yes, sir.
We don't want reparations, we want restoration. Put my blood right back where it belongs. Give me my family trust. Because all my family members is under my family trust. You just didn't know I knew.
Yeah, this
So
is
I
all.
did.
Oh, go ahead.
This is what we've been doing this whole time. Walking through this manual. Continuity of government for the Biden term, both Trump terms. Obama destroyed the United States. Soon as a foreigner took office, it had canceled the contract of the United States. Barack Obama is a foreign-born individual, was never supposed to take office. You can look that up. No foreign-born person was supposed to take the office of the presidency because it's classified as a hostile takeover by a foreign nation. Right? That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger never ran for president.
That's deep. Now, who would you consider to be Obama's handlers? Like, how was he able to?
George Herbert Walker Bush was his handler from a child.
As a CIA, he was part of CIA operation, correct?
He appointed his direct overseer to be Lolo Sotoro. His mother was a surrogate carrying a clone child.
Oh, you about to go there? Go ahead.
I got something with that too. And you
go
know,
ahead, because we spoke about this off air. Y'all both go ahead and get it.
Yeah, that's the Boys of Brazil program, but they told us they was cloning Hitler. They wasn't cloning Hitler, they was cloning Akhenaten. And that's why Obama looked like Akhenaten. He is cloned.
And you remember the guy from 5 Heartbeats, the light-skinned guy, Dresser?
Yep.
That's where he got his mannerisms from. He was coached by him. So like
in Chicago. He trained him in Chicago.
Facts. The light-skinned guy, watch the movie 5 Heartbeats, and you will see the exact same mannerisms as the light-skinned guy named Dresser.
Better yet, when you figure out his real name, you can look him up on YouTube telling the story of how he taught central casting, baby. Central casting.
Yep.
Central casting, baby.
It's getting hot in these Ashe streets, boy.
Right. You know, Big Chief was right. It's all a stage show. It's
Get him, there.
Hollywood. You know,
look,
it's but a Hollywood.
You remember John Hinckley Jr. shot Reagan, right? You know that's George Herbert Walker Bush's illegitimate son.
Did not.
I didn't know that.
Look, if you put his picture next to Jeb Bush's picture, you'll swear up and down they twins. They look the same but different. I already did all that stuff on my Facebook page.
It's getting hot. Hot out this thing, boy. Getting real hot. Yes, sir. Yeah. We promised the people the war report, boy. You're getting the report, boy. You're getting that thing loud and clear.
And all of the blood shield families are the families that's concealing the black nobility. All of the blood shield families covering for the real 13 bloodlines of the tribes of so-called Israel. The black Jew. Right? And all of the organizations like the JDL is actually a paramilitary training group. Right? Under the pretense of a civil rights action group. The ADL, if they can't compel you by anti-Semitism, right, to shut the F up, they send the Jewish Defense League to shut you up. Right? They are a branch of Mossad. The Mossad is the branch of CIA KGB, MI5. They all were in on creating Mossad, right? They create these intelligence networks. This is to pass information clandestine, and they use public means. Like when you watch spy movies, especially in the 70s, you used to see the spy grab the newspaper and he would extract the code from the newspaper. And regular people would just read the story and never know it was a code in it. That's how they do, because they trade in secrets on a network that requires you to know certain code cracking techniques.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
If you know the page, you'll know who they talking to.
Wow. And you know what that reminds me of? Like Morse, to me, it reminds me of like a combination between Morse codes and like the Medu-Neter or any type of sacred, you know what I'm saying, encrypted system of communication. If
It
you
is.
don't
That's
know
exactly what it is.
Yeah. Just like the Odu of E5 or Medu-Neter of Kemet, you know what I'm saying? Like all of these are secret binary, or Odu is binary, but all of them are secret encrypted codes. And if you don't have the access code to get into, you know what I'm saying, manipulating that modality of communication, you ain't gonna be able to read nothing. But if you have it, you can read it all.
The same thing actually translates even with the sports as a codex.
Yeah, you don't talk about
that. Everything within the Metatronic overlay is a codex. Just like when you look at OKC versus the Pacers. What is the Pacers? The horse. 2026 is also the year of the horse, and that's also the same year that they say that the Golden Gate Bridge is going to collapse, because they just came out with a news article that was talking about it on YouTube. How they're looking at many different afflictions, talking about the Golden Gate Bridge is going to collapse during that time period, because the Golden Gate represents the galactic center, and it represents the 9/11 ritualistic events, the tire moments of everything that's going to be facilitated by Donald Trump, because he's an agent provocateur, chaos agent. So
he's
everything,
the liquidator in chief.
Facts. Yep. So the signs and symbols is not only subjected to as far as like the political apparatus, but you can see it in what's going to be taking place. You can see it in the movies. You can see it in sports. Everything is symbolism, and the symbolism for what is to come as far as their sustainable development goals and going into the future.
Yeah, that's deep. Hey, let me ask y'all this, because I see and there's been multiple comments too. Shout out to the tribe, man. I appreciate everybody. We like 1,600 people in this thing right now. Shout out to everybody who's showing up and showing out. But they've been talking about, and I've heard about this too. What do y'all have on the Job Corps situation? Because they definitely they closed down a lot of the Job Corps, you know what I mean? And then I saw somebody said, what do y'all think is going on in these Job Corps centers? So shout out to Yasuki and Young Hitters. They both commented on that.
So you got to know the origin of Job Corps. Job Corps was never intended for none of us. Job Corps was a way to catch errant Caucasian youth and give them a segue into military style living.
Wow.
So that they can matriculate them into the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. What happened is that we begin to get the information from relatives that lived around them, that the pale people were sending their children to Job Corps, and they was being paid as teenagers, 12, 13, 14 years old, all the way up to, I think, 17 at that time, and eventually moved up to 21. And then they was able to learn a trade, a skilled trade, because remember, they took the skilled trades out of inner city schools. There's no skilled trades in inner city schools anymore unless somebody revived the program somewhere. So they had to make sure when segregation became integration that they had a way to sheep dip their children, funnel them out of the system to try to turn them into soldiers. In their youth, they wanted them to be like Michael Samuel from the Femme Nikita show. But when they become seasoned in their old age, they want them to be Victor Newman off the soap operas. Right? And the balance between the two from being a young stone cold killer to a business mogul. You're a warrior in war, and you need war strategy in the boardroom. So you become the master strategist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Job Corps begin to start busting at the seams because there was so many entrants when other communities got wind to this was a good way to get skilled trades for our sons. And a lot of us didn't operate well in high school, because we got beef with them dudes over there.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get along with them other dudes over there. We haven't learned the social skills of communication to the point where we can go talk to them dudes over there to find out why we even got beef. Because we might not supposed to have beef, might have been told to have beef by somebody that ain't us.
That's a real thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and it started busting at the seams, they're going to eventually shut that avenue off because there's more people benefiting than the original intended purpose of the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different I feel like there's a lot of different factions in society that operate that way as well. It's like they'll have things or let things go to a certain extent, but then once we get wind of it, once we learn how to figure it out, then it's like Operation Shutdown, because like it's only designated for a selected, I guess, group or few.
Do you know why?
I got an idea, but I'd rather you go ahead and share with us.
Institutional control.
Yep.
Control the institutions, you drive the society wherever you want it to go. That's how a 60-pound bulldog can flip a 2,000-pound bull.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Flip, you change the center of gravity to your angle using the social layout. You lay the society out by systems. You give the illusion of power and control you got that from Machiavelli. You give them uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
The uniforms give you the appearance of legitimacy.
Commercial.
And just because they got a uniform don't mean they blow here.
What and does that not symbolize something what we just saw with them with the inside job political hit with the folks up there in Minnesota that just got whacked? That sounds like the same thing you're talking about right now.
Really, a deep state war. Deep state versus black hats versus white hats. That's all it is.
No, that's
a civil war on the inside of the bitch ass corporation,
which also happened on No King's Day.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Not a coincidence.
And was that not the night after the strawberry moon?
Yeah.
What do
because
we have here?
It's a representation of moonfall. The sleep spell is starting to, be manipulated.
That's also a series on was it Netflix, Moonfall?
Yeah. Yep.
Remember really and in there the key character meets Tawaret, Big Mama.
I had to check that. I never saw it. I'm gonna check that out.
I've seen it one time, but I did a breakdown on it.
It's a series.
Series? Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
What I'm talking about is a series.
Oh, there's a series. Okay. But yeah, in the movie, it really just shows you that, the moon is really a celestial megastructure. That's all it was basically demonstrating.
A big ass spaceship.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got told Zulu mythology, Credo Mutwa, he'd tell you in the inception of time, it wasn't no damn moon. All you had was gray skies.
That's the Lilith story from the Hebrews.
Yeah.
When our night sky was lit up with the light from the moon Lilith, which is the moon of Saturn, we was in a different orbit for one.
Okay.
And what they call the asteroid belt was part of the Earth. This was when it was Tiamat. Right? It was like 2/3 the size it is now.
Fact.
And the part that's knocked off of it became the asteroid belt. Which was part of the war with the Maldekians from Mars. I think it was the moon of Mars the Maldekians come from, Europa.
Yeah,
The
because that's
frozen moon.
And that's what caused that big gash in the Grand Canyon, if I'm not mistaken, right? Parts of some of the ships or parts of some of
The
the
Grand
like
Canyon was carved out with water.
So
when
that
the,
didn't happen from
when the original Temple of Isis was there, it was a water world.
Mm-hmm.
All of those temples sit above the canyon, right? But as the waterfall, they begin to build caves in the sides of the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And by looking at the caves that's built in the side of the canyon, and then you can actually see the strata as the water receded over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds just
right.
like the in Kemet.
California was an island until they blocked off they built a dam, but it don't look like a dam. It just looked like a bunch of rocks at a coastline.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was like a river, it was like a river between mainland America and California. That's why they keep thinking it's gonna fall into the ocean, but it's not gonna fall into the ocean. That dam got a lifespan. When that dam break, that water coming back, and it's gonna look like California back in the ocean, the island again.
Y'all watch that movie? What was it? Escape from LA.
Yeah.
They show
and
you.
I was just watching the fight for is it called the Battle of Los Angeles or the Fight for Los Angeles, something like that. I was just watching that yesterday, and I was looking at and peeping the symbolism that was in that movie as well. And it's really, to me, I feel like that one came out in 2011. They're literally showing us right now, like they prepared that movie for what's happening right now. That movie came out in 2011, but right now they're talking about everything that's happening now in 2025.
They show you in Terminator Genesis too, when John Connor comes back from the future and fights his old self, and it takes you all the way in between the years of 2027 to 2029. So this is also in alignment with the prophecy of popes, because the allegory is 2027 is the so-called end of the world, which is not really the end of the world. It's really just a shift in power. So it's the end of the age. So it's the end of the 6,000 verification period of the beast system.
End of the cycle. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's deep. That's real. Okay, so now there's so much going on. So now when it comes to, does the ice raids and all this bullshit that they're doing with the Mexican and Spanish people, whatever, like, does all that kind of play into what we're experiencing now? Or how, like, what does that have to do with any of this? Or does it have anything to do with any of this?
That's all of the theatrical enactment of what energies is being utilized.
So pretty much to keep your attention to that instead of what's really happening.
Yeah. Not just so much of that. You got to look at the players in the activity. Right? You can't believe it's real if you have chaos on one coast and a parade on the other coast.
Right.
Make that make sense.
Right.
Make that make sense. Please make it make sense for me.
No, but that's considered the twin pillars.
Yep.
The riots is symbolic of fall of California.
Yep.
Right? The fall of Hollywood, Petalwood.
Yep.
The military parade is basically an invasion of the republic to seize the corporation and to show a sense of a presence of force to the ones that's trying to resist. You're gonna get down or you're gonna lay down.
Yep, it's really
now when you say, go ahead, Vito.
No, I was just telling you, everything they're doing is really causing chaos to create technocratic sorcery, because they want to build smart cities in LA by 2028.
Yeah.
So that's the main goal. So a lot of these people are really agent provocators. They being paid $200 to mess up, everything at these protests. $200 a day.
We still can't get none of the people to tell us why every time they tell us it's going to be a riot, is it pallets of bricks strategically located at the right sites.
But is that not the same what they're doing in Chicago? I don't know if they still are, but they were like leaving cars with, like, literally cars with guns and all kind of ammo and all that, like just laying, like leaving them in the street so brothers can get hold of them and go to war with each other. Is that not the same thing?
Yeah. It's called Black Box Enterprise. It's based out of a California thing when they was putting them black boxes in California.
Mm-hmm.
And storage boxes, just dropping them on the street. And the kids was finding out what was in them because they wasn't locked.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back, told their big brothers, and they said, let's get money.
You know the main reason why they do that shit in Chicago, though? Because for one, Chicago's an energy center.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where a lot of master teachers come from. And it's also in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation. So the reason they put those guns out there like that, they know that Chicago is like one of the poorest school systems in the school union. And that there's not a lot of lucrative job opportunities. So it's kind of like one of those things that kind of keep you, you know, economically disenfranchised. It's a destabilization war tactic.
Yeah.
To keep you fighting amongst each other so you don't have a so-called rise of a, you know, black messiah. Because like places like St. Louis, Chicago, Philly,
Detroit,
Detroit, these are all energy centers.
Harlem.
All in alignment with, you know, the Big Dipper star constellation. So
that tell you right there what you just said, Bidell. That tell you unequivocally that we've been walking in them centers on that energy for thousands of years because we always knew the energy centers was there.
Facts.
This is why we got mounds everywhere.
Facts.
And then the mounds is how we know that it's sacred ground.
Yeah, because Cahokia is right there in Illinois, which is not too far from Chicago, correct?
Yeah.
Then you got Carbondale, Illinois, because when you look at the word carbon, and then you got Little Egypt, and then it's the 618 area code. 3 6 together is an 18. So they already know what's going on. They just tell you through signs and symbols. You got to understand the codes, just like, you know, Big Chief was talking about. You got to understand the symbolism. Everything's right in your face already. You just got to understand the codex. And that's because anything that's especially on that landmass right there, that's also where the New Madrid fault line, where they had that 2023 solar eclipse at, which was the black sun that represents that anarchy symbol, which was the Antichrist sigil or whatever. There's many different ways to look at it. It's a multi-dimensional symbol, but
it's also the Alpha and Omega.
Yep, the 19, right? Or even when you look at it from Kemetic spirituality, it's a representation of the crook and the flail, or Aries and Libra, right? It's the same thing. A lot of people are just not understanding the codex because those signs and symbols also correspond with numerical sequences. So a lot of times the thing is, when they see numbers, you're really seeing letters, and when you see letters, you're really seeing numbers. That's all it is.
Can you say that again for the people in the back, Bidell? I get it, but I think like that was dope.
No, I was saying like a lot of times when you see letters, you're really looking at numbers, and when you're looking at numbers, you're really looking at letters. It depends on how they give it to you. Just like when you go to a lot of these downtown monuments or whatever, you got these monolithic structures downtown, and they got like time capsules. Those time capsules, the year on the time capsule is not really a year; it's a code. We got one that is supposed to be opened in the year of 2045, and then when you break down the codex, it really means in the year of light, the true Masons is gonna get back to planet. That's what it basically displays. So many words. Yeah.
That's deep. So how does all of this fall into alignment from astrological or cosmic level, considering all the different movements and all the different like alignments and all the different activity that we see with the solar flares, and we see with the eclipses, with the strawberry moons, like the solstices? Like, how does all that kind of correlate to what we're seeing and experiencing from the cosmic level, but also here on the planetary level?
It's as above, so below.
I show you.
If you know how to read the stars, then all you got to do is watch until you learn how to read how the stars affect what's going on the ground. It's just like everybody know when a full moon happens, some bullshit gonna go down.
And that's real. That's real too.
Up on them full moons.
Yeah,
which made them develop. which made them develop a term called lunacy.
Yeah, because anybody who's ever worked in a hospital can tell you about that. That's real. That really happens on full moons.
On full moons, they doubled up the staff in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody finna act a fool because they can't control that feminine energy, especially the men. Because he can't control his masculine energy, his feminine energy make him crash out.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's deep. Shout out to Kelsey LC. Who declares war on their people? Well, we're not their people. The people that declared the war. That's why they did, because we're not their people. Do one of y'all want to come?
That's the great illusion right there. Is to make us believe that we part of their victory.
Fact.
We not part of their victory. We not part of America. We not part of none of the stuff they got going on in DC.
Facts.
They just imposing their will on us because they got guns and we don't. That's why they was fighting so hard to ban the right to bear arms. They didn't want to get rid of it for the good old boys. They wanted us to not have a right to bear arms, so they wanted us defenseless.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere where the people don't have a right to bear arms, the people are defenseless against the tyranny of government.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what has kept these suckers from doing a full-fledged lockdown slave system across the land, because there's too many good old boys. Now there's too many good old boys and homeboys with heavy artillery, but the heavy artillery they got ain't nothing compared to what their military got.
Mm-hmm.
Their military got secret weapons for quiet war.
Yeah.
You would think that you wanted to shoot your homeboy because he looked like the enemy, and all the time they planted that thought in your head with a projection module.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, oh, damn, I shot my homeboy. I ain't mean to do that.
Yeah.
I don't turn on man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, how the hell I shoot my homeboy?
Okay, how does because we when we talk about war, excuse me, we really are at war in a lot of different ways. How do we determine or differentiate the different types of attacks and the different types of elements that are being used with war? And when I say that, I mean because you have people out here who are using sound wave technology or frequency, you know what I'm saying, attacks and strategies. They got mind control. You have these devices, the technology can penetrate the mind and the subconscious. So we're being inundated with so many different levels of attacks, right? How do we know, or how can we protect ourselves from a lot of these attacks that are happening in regards to the different types of
We
strategies?
become susceptible to them when we don't know who that voice is in our head talking. You should know your voice in your head. You should know your mama voice in your head, your daddy voice in your head, your sibling. So when you doing something and you hear a voice in the head, that ain't no familiar voice. That ain't me. Right? This is why they keep saying the knowledge of self. Man, know thyself. Because once you know you, even the nature of what's being told to you to do is going against your nature.